Hello, my name is Artisha Lawson. I'm a program officer with the Greater Toledo Community Foundation. I'm here to talk to you about the Equity and Access Initiative. If you have any questions, they will be addressed at the close or near the closing of this presentation. Here's just some highlights, what we've done since the initiative was launched in 2020. As you can see, we received quite a bit of applications, but we're hoping over the next 3 years to see an increase in the number of applications or requests that are received. We have funded a number of solo applicants and collaborative applicants, but there's a few things that I want to highlight. That way I'm not simply repeating what you see on your screen. The Voices Project, which was facilitated by the African American Legacy Project, actually served as the launching point for the initiative in the initial round, and the DEI webinar served over 430 local nonprofit staff and board members to provide diversity, equity, and inclusion training at no cost. Here's what we call the grant-making priorities. Keep in mind, every grant has a different priority for that particular fund. As you can see, the core priorities have remained the same. We're still looking to address legacy concerns that will impact barriers. We are encouraging collaboration, but it is not required in order to receive funding consideration. And there is another slight change. In order to encourage collaborative applications, those applications that have 2 or more nonprofits and or grassroots associations can come in at a higher request amount at $25,000. Sole applicants are still encouraged to apply, and they can come in at $15,000. The 4 focus areas have remained the same for our next 3 rounds: advocacy, employment, economic development, and nonprofit capacity. I want to take a moment to just give a brief explanation on what these focus areas mean. Advocacy, employment, and economic development, these should be services that your nonprofit is providing to the community. And what that looks like is really up to that particular nonprofit. But keep in mind, the committee that reviews these applications, really wants to support active requests, something that will have an impact in the community. Now, the nonprofit capacity, this is more internal. This will allow for nonprofits to consider what services, what anything. It's a lot of different options that can come under nonprofit capacity. But what can assist the organization to increase their capacity internally so that they can better serve the community externally? Here's our timeline. May 2nd, the application opens. The deadline is July. And in between the deadline and the notification, there is an advisory committee that will review every application. Their recommendations are ultimately approved by the foundation board. Once that happens, the grantees will be notified of the final determination. At any point in time, interested nonprofits can call the office with questions. Here's the list of the 11 nonprofits that receive funding for the first 2 rounds of this initiative. As you can see, they range in the amounts, but they also range in what the grant will support. There's advocacy that's supported, economic development, nonprofit capacity, there's collaborations, all different ends of the spectrum are included, and that's what we're looking for as we continue to move forward. So I will stop sharing and open up if there are any questions. If you have a question, if you just want to raise your hand and I will call on you. Patrick?
Hey, Artisha, can you tell us more about what types of organizations are eligible for funding?
Sure. The foundation and the advisory committee are looking for new applicants, nonprofits that have never applied for funding, but we're also looking for experienced and organizations that have applied in the past. We are highlighting grassroots associations, minority-led nonprofits, especially those that are serving our local area in Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan. Don't be shy.
Artisha, can you help me understand a little better what you mean by fund focus areas?
Okay, the fund focus area for this particular initiative, these are the 4 areas that all applicants should select. So you can select one focus area. Maybe your project is just going to support advocacy or just nonprofit capacity. And applicants can select one or multiple focus areas, but they should select at least one for consideration. Joanne?
Yes, I'm not sure if the project or program that I am thinking about applying for fits one of these focus areas. Is there someone that I could talk to about this before I actually go through the process of applying to see if it will even work?
Yes, if you're interested in applying, whether you have a question about what is eligible, do you meet the criteria, examples of focus areas, even questions about what the budget may or may not look like, you should call the office. That's probably the best way to connect with me. And the number here, just in case you are not familiar with it, it's 419-241-5049, and just ask for Artisha.
Can you give me? Oh, yes, thank you. How much can I ask for?
Good question. If you are a solo applicant, meaning only one nonprofit is applying, they are the only one conducting the work. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't have partners, but you are the main one responsible for the project. That's a max of $15,000. Now, if you're going to collaborate, meaning you're collaborating with outcomes as well as sharing the dollars that could be awarded, you can request up to $25,000. And the grant guidelines clearly will outline each one of those criteria, but you can always call and speak with me if you have questions.
Can I ask for money if I don't have any other money to help do this work? Or do I have to show that I have other funding coming into this project?
No, you don't need to have funding to support the project, but we may ask, how are you going to sustain this? Because again, we're looking to support projects that will continue to have an impact on the community.
Thank you.
Patrick?
Patricia, you mentioned focus areas. Is there a preference for one of those 4 focus areas over the other? Or is there a preference if my project touches on all 4, will I get special consideration?
Good question. Currently, we do not have a preference which one would be considered a higher priority. And if your project touches all 4, then that's okay too. But it wouldn't be considered a higher priority against those that have only selected 1 or 2.
Can you give some, sorry, raise my hand. I'll raise my hand. Can you give some examples of types of things that have been funded in the past and types of things that have been of lesser interest to the reviewers?
Okay. I'll start with what the committee has determined. And now keep in mind, we've only had 2 rounds. projects. So the priorities may change in terms of what the committee may consider moving forward. But in the past 2 rounds, general operating wasn't considered a high priority. It doesn't mean that the organization didn't align. They were just looking for specific projects. The other thing is the committee doesn't have an interest in supporting like one and done events. They're looking for a project. Now, the project may have just a few activities, but just one large event may not align with what the committee is looking for. In terms of what the committee has supported so far, it is a wide range. For example, they supported a project proposed by the Believe Center, which would train and employ minority referees for their sports program, which they've been operating for many, many years. Equality Toledo, they received funding specifically to address training for implicit bias that may impact the LGBTQIA community. Greater Generations is one of our collaborative partners that included City Park League, and they're looking at addressing youth employment. I could give a whole list of every single project, but what I would encourage any applicant is to contact me, because these projects may not align with the mission of your organization, but they could.
I have another question. It sounds like most everything that's been funded so far is primarily in Lucas County or in the city of Toledo. Are programs outside of Lucas County eligible?
Yes. We did have an applicant, La Conexion. They are not in Lucas County. They received funding to address nonprofit capacity that was led through a consultant process.
Oh, okay. And then when the foundation says it supports programming in Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan, where's the boundary line for Southeast Michigan?
Now, I believe that Southeast Michigan is Monroe and Lenawee County.
Okay. So if I'm in Detroit, I wouldn't be eligible?
No, but I will say if you are unsure if you fit within the boundary, the application will allow you to select which service area that you're located in. And if you don't see your actual geography location, it probably means that you are outside of our boundary for this particular grant. Keep in mind, this is just one.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
How will I know if I am awarded funds? Once my application has been submitted, how long before I would get my money?
Good question. An always important question. So once the application is received, keep in mind that once the application closes, that's when the review starts. So if you are an early submission, keep in mind that July 2nd is when the application will be reviewed by the committee. The decisions don't happen until after the advisory committee has made their recommendation and it has been approved by the board. Once that happens, whether you were approved or declined, you will find out in October what the decision is.
Okay. So about a couple, 3 months, roughly, give or take, from the time I make my submission and the deadline closes?
Yep.
Okay.
I think I'll take like one more question and then we can close it out. Well, I won't force it. So I want to thank you for watching this video about our community conversation. And if you have any questions, I encourage you to contact the foundation after you have reviewed the grant guideline, which is accessible within the application and the foundation's grant page. Thank you.